reached a turning point, there comes a time in every soul's journey when the path forward no longer feels the same. You wake up one day, and though the sun still rises in the same place, something inside you has shifted. The air feels heavier, not with burden, but with meaning. This, dear one, is a turning point. And no, it's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it comes quietly, like a breeze brushing past your awareness, whispering, "Look again." When I first experienced my turning point, I wasn't in a grand temple or on some mountaintop. I was sweeping fallen leaves, just a broom in hand and a restless heart in my chest. I had been walking the path of discipline, but not the path of purpose. And one morning, as the golden sun cut through the mist, I paused, and in that stillness, something stirred. It wasn't words, it wasn't logic. It was just a knowing that life wasn't about reaching somewhere else, but about remembering who I already was. You may be feeling that now. Like the things that used to matter, the approval, the race, the chase, don't taste the same. And it's not that you've lost passion. You've outgrown a version of yourself that no longer fits. You've reached a sacred edge, and while the world may call it confusion, I call it awakening. In the monastery, we are taught, before you climb higher, you must sit deeper. And so, let us sit together now in this turning point. Let us reflect. What are you really chasing? Is it success or peace? Is it validation or truth? You may find that your answers are not where you've been looking, but in the quiet spaces you've been avoiding. Let me tell you a story. There once lived a man who spent his whole life trying to become someone. He climbed ladders, built wealth, became respected, but he never felt full. One day, in old age, he wandered to a temple and asked the abbot, "How do I find fulfillment?" The abbot handed him a mirror, just a simple mirror, and he said, "Before you add anything more, look at who you've become, then ask, is this who you want to remain?" The man wept, because the reflection didn't show a peaceful man. It showed a tired one. That mirror changed his life, not because of what it revealed, but because it reminded him that he could choose to change it. And so can you. You see, turning points are not about doing more. They are about becoming less distracted, less reactive, less consumed. Because beneath all that noise, the truest version of you is waiting patiently to emerge. This journey is not about abandoning your life, it's about re-entering it, fully awake. It's about looking around at the ordinary, and finally seeing the extraordinary beauty hidden in the present moment. Let me ask you gently, when was the last time you truly listened to your breath? Not just breathed, but listened or watched the sky change colors without reaching for your phone, or told someone you love them. Not out of habit, but with full presence. These are the moments that life is built upon. Not the big wins, but the small awakenings. So here, at your turning point, you must choose. Will you step back into the cycle of urgency? Or will you honor this sacred pause and realign with the deeper truth? You are not behind in life, you are exactly where you need to be to begin again with awareness. And beginnings do not need trumpets. Sometimes, all they need is a whisper, "I am ready to live with meaning." As we continue this journey together, I will share more of the lessons that helped me strip away illusion and uncover peace. But for today, let this be enough. You are not lost. You are being re-guided. The fact that you are here, listening, is proof. This turning point is a blessing. Sit with that. Breathe with that. Let your next step come not from pressure, but from presence. We are just getting started, my friend. Come back for the next part of this journey. You're still here. That means something, not to me, but to you. It means a part of you recognizes there is more to life than what you've been told, more than the endless scrolling, the constant comparing, the proving, the performing. It means you're ready to awaken the part of you that remembers how to just be. Let me share something I learned from my teacher, an old monk who had taken a vow of silence for over a decade. He once broke his silence to say to me, "Most people speak to be heard, but those who are wise listen to understand." Then he said no more for another year, but those few words were enough to shift me forever. You see, we spend so much of our lives speaking, explaining, defending, justifying. But what if your turning point isn't about what you say next, but what you finally stop saying to yourself? The stories of unworthiness, the pressure to become someone else, the constant replay of what went wrong, the fear that you've missed your moment. Pause, right here, in this moment. Take a breath. With me, pause. The monk breathes slowly in and out. Now ask yourself, what story have I been repeating to myself for far too long? We all carry stories. Some were handed to us in childhood. Others we crafted out of pain or survival, but not all stories are true, even if we've lived in them for years. One of my own stories was this: I must be useful to be worthy. That belief made me say yes to too many things. It made me perform spirituality instead of live it. Until I burned out, not just in body, but in soul. I remember sitting alone under a moonless sky, asking the stars why I still felt so empty. And The answer came not from the stars, but from the silence between them. You were not born to be useful. You were born to be whole. That changed everything. You don't have to fix your life overnight. You don't have to force your next step. You only need to listen. In deep listening, the truth reveals itself, and often it is much simpler than we imagined. Let's reflect together. Close your eyes for a moment, if you're able, now. Imagine your life 5 years from now, not if everything goes right, but if everything goes real. What does that version of you value? How do they spend their time? Who are they surrounded by? What thoughts guide their day? Now ask, what is one thing I can let go of today to move closer to that vision? Perhaps it's the need to please everyone. Perhaps it's a resentment you've held too long. Perhaps it's the belief that you're not ready. Letting go doesn't always feel good at first. We become attached to our suffering. It becomes familiar. But freedom begins when we choose discomfort over repetition. There's a saying in the monastery, when the soul is ready to evolve, the ego will panic. That panic may show up as fear, doubt, or even sadness, but don't confuse that with being on the wrong path. Sometimes, growth feels like breaking before it feels like blooming. Let me tell you another story. This one is about a young woman who came to the temple seeking answers. She had lost everything she thought gave her identity, her job, her relationship, her confidence. She sat before me and asked, "What do I do when I no longer recognize myself?" I handed her a bowl and told her to fill it with water from the river nearby. She came back, the bowl trembling in her hands. I asked her to hold it still. At first, the water rippled, then slowly, it settled, and I said to her, "Only when the bowl is still can you see your reflection." She understood. You don't need to fix everything at once. You only need to become still enough to see clearly again. Stillness is not the absence of life. It is the presence of awareness. In this world that constantly tells you to do more, prove more, hustle harder, the most radical act is to pause, to breathe, to ask what truly matters. Because your turning point is not a detour, it is a return to what your soul has always known, that you are enough, that your peace matters, that your time is sacred, that your presence is your greatest power. There's so much more I want to share with you. Lessons about grief and letting go, stories about compassion and courage, reflections on time, meaning, and the quiet joy of living slowly. But for now, let this settle in your heart like sunlight through trees. This moment, this turning point, is your invitation to begin again, and you are not alone. I will walk with you. We will continue this journey together, one page at a time, one breath at a time, one awakening at a time. When you're ready, I'll be here waiting to continue the conversation. You've reached a turning point, the monk's life lessons. To reclaim your path, we've taken 2 steps together already. And yet, we are only just beginning. You see, transformation does not happen all at once. It is not like a door that swings wide open in a single motion. It is more like the turning of a season, the soft melt of snow into spring, subtle, patient, necessary. Today, I want to talk to you about something many people avoid, the power of facing discomfort. You've reached a turning point, yes, but that turning will often bring you face to face with parts of yourself you've tried to escape. Not because life is punishing you, but because it's preparing you for something deeper, something truer. When I first entered the monastery, I was assigned to work in the garden. That may sound peaceful to you now, but in truth I hated it. My ego resisted it fiercely. Why am I pulling weeds when I could be meditating, when I could be learning scriptures or teaching others? I didn't see the lesson at first. Until one day, I noticed a single dandelion. It had sprouted strong in the middle of the herb bed, its roots deep. I bent down to pull it, but it wouldn't budge. I dug deeper, and there it was, not one long root, but a tangle. It had wrapped itself around other roots, stealing their strength, and I realized that weed was like my ego, loud, entitled, feeding itself by draining the life from the quieter virtues, patience, humility, discipline. So I kept gardening, not because I learned to love it, but because I finally saw what it was teaching me. Discomfort is the mirror of growth. If you avoid the mirror, you avoid the truth. If you face it, you begin to see clearly. Let me ask you, what do you resist in your life? What do you label as boring, pointless, or beneath you? What emotion do you avoid feeling? What conversation do you delay having? These are not roadblocks. These are invitations to meet yourself at the root. There's a monk's phrase I love: the wound is the doorway. The pain you carry, it isn't just hurt. It's a gate. Through that gate lies understanding, compassion, a softer way of seeing yourself and the world. One student of mine came to me years ago, heartbroken after losing someone he loved deeply. He could not eat, could not sleep. He asked, "How do I stop this pain?" I said, "Don't let it walk with you. Let it speak. Sit with it at your table. Ask it what it has to teach you." He was quiet for a long time. Months passed. Then one day, he returned, eyes clearer, voice steadier. He said, "I learned to stop running from the ache And once I sat with it, I realized it was love, just in a different form. That's what most people miss. We think the pain is the end, but often, pain is just the beginning of a deeper love, not just love for others, but for yourself. For your journey, for the sacred imperfection of being human, you are allowed to feel pain. You are allowed to grieve, to be confused, to break down. None of these make you weak, in fact. They are signs you are alive and still opening. But do not stay broken. Let the breaking open you. Let me offer you something gentle to carry today. Each morning when you wake, instead of asking, "What do I have to do?" try asking, "Who do I want to be while I do it?" Because you are not your tasks. You are not your failures. You are not even your successes. You are the awareness behind all of it. And at your turning point, what matters most is not what happens next, but how you respond to what happens, with grace, with patience, with self-respect, or with the same patterns that kept you running in circles. You get to choose, and that, dear one, is your greatest power. Pause. The monk turns to gaze at the distant hills bathed in golden light. I want to leave you with this final reflection for today. Sometimes you don't need more answers. You simply need to ask better questions. So ask yourself, am I living out of fear or from truth? Am I reacting or responding? Am I distracting myself or discovering myself? You are not here by accident. And the fact that you're still listening means your soul is waking up to the truth that you've carried all along. This is not the end. This is not the middle. This is your beginning. And I will walk with you as we take the next steps together. Sometimes, before we move forward, we must first understand what we've been carrying. You may have made it to this turning point not because you ran toward the truth, but because life gently, or perhaps not so gently, removed everything that wasn't true. Loss, change, emptiness, silence. These are not punishments, these are teachers, and they are often the most honest ones. Today, I want to speak with you about something essential that we often overlook on the journey: the art of letting go. You see, most people think that letting go is about giving something up, but I've come to understand it differently. Letting go is not loss, it's space. It's the sacred space required for something new to grow. You do not let go to be empty. You let go to make room for peace. In the monastery, we are trained to live simply, not as a punishment, but as a practice. I own very little, just a few robes, a bowl, a cup, and a small wooden comb. But in that emptiness, I feel the fullness of every moment. Many years ago, I met a traveler, a man who had journeyed across continents searching for enlightenment. He had studied under teachers, read ancient texts, sat in retreats, but still, he felt restless. He asked me, why do I still feel stuck after doing so much spiritual work? I looked at the heavy bag on his shoulder and asked, what's inside that pack? He opened it, dozens of books, journals, stones, trinkets, and letters. A collection of everything he thought he needed to remember who he was, and I said, perhaps it's not what you're missing, but what you refuse to put down. That man wept in the temple courtyard that day, because he realized that his journey wasn't about gathering more wisdom. It was about releasing the illusions he had wrapped around himself. And so I ask you, what are you carrying that no longer serves you? Maybe it's an old version of yourself you're afraid to outgrow. Maybe it's a dream that no longer belongs to your current soul. Maybe it's guilt, or a fear of disappointing others, or a memory you keep revisiting, hoping for a different ending. Let me remind you with tenderness, you do not need to carry it all. There is power in surrender. In fact, one of the most sacred moments in my own journey was the day I stopped trying to prove myself worthy of peace and simply sat in silence with nothing to offer but my breath. And do you know what I found? Stillness was already enough. The world trains you to accumulate, but your soul, it longs to simplify. Because beneath all the layers you've wrapped yourself in, the titles, the opinions, the identities, there is a light that never flickered. It didn't leave, it only waited for you to slow down long enough to feel it again. The monk gently sips his tea, a smile touches his lips. Let me offer you something simple today. Before you go to sleep tonight, choose one thing, just one, that you no longer need to carry into tomorrow. Maybe it's a thought, maybe it's an expectation, maybe it's a burden that was never yours to hold. Write it down, burn it, release it, breathe it out. You'll be amazed at how much lighter your soul feels when you stop asking it to carry what it was never meant to hold. Pause. The monk closes his eyes and places a hand over his heart. This is your invitation, not to escape life, but to embrace it with empty hands and an open heart. Because the truth is this, letting go is not the end of the road, it's the beginning of something honest, something gentle, something deeply aligned with who you're becoming. You don't have to know where this road leads. You just have to keep walking it with intention, and I will be here, just as I am now, walking beside you with stories, with silence, with the soft wisdom of a life lived slowly. Together, we'll peel back the layers, we'll sit with what hurts, We'll celebrate what heals. This is not a quick journey, but it is a beautiful one. And if you've reached this point, you're already further than you think. Let your next step not be rushed, but real, and I promise, what you find on the other side of letting go will feel like home. There is something sacred about the early morning before the world rises in noise, before the demands return. There exists a hush, a moment where everything is still deciding what kind of day it will be. I believe your soul is much the same every morning. It rises with a question, who shall I become today? But the mind often interrupts before the soul can answer. It shouts with yesterday's worries, today's tasks, tomorrow's fears. And in that noise, we forget that we are allowed to begin again, not just once in life, but every single day. Today, I want to talk to you about something we all crave, yet often misunderstand: clarity. Many people come to me and say, I just want to be clear. I want to know what to do next. What's my purpose? What's my path? But here's the truth I've learned. Clarity does not come from thinking harder, it comes from being quieter. You cannot hear a whisper in a storm, and the soul often speaks in whispers. Let me share a story. There was a young monk in our monastery who, despite his best efforts, always felt lost. He meditated, he followed the schedule, but inside, he felt uncertain, as though everyone else had found their way but him. One evening, after a long day, he sat beside the abbot and finally said, Master, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm wandering in the dark. The abbot looked up at the moon and replied, You are not lost. You are learning how to walk in your own light. That night, something shifted for the young monk, not because he received a map, but because he was reminded that the path is not always visible, but it is always unfolding, and so is yours. You may not know the next step yet, but perhaps clarity is not a destination. It is a byproduct of presence. When we truly slow down, when we listen, when we breathe, when we stop grasping, life begins to reveal its own rhythm. Let me offer you a gentle practice that has guided me for many years. Each morning, before speaking to anyone, before reaching for your phone, before turning on the world, take 3 full breaths and ask, what would bring me peace today? Who do I need to forgive today, including myself? What is one small thing I can do with great presence? You do not need to figure everything out today. You only need to be deeply present with what this moment is asking of you. And that's where clarity lives, not in pressure, but in presence. There's another phrase we use often in the monastery. Don't chase the answer. Become the space where the answer can land. It's much like tending a garden. You do not pull the flower out of the ground to make it grow faster. You create the conditions: water, sun, stillness, and you allow that. In the same way, you must allow yourself to unfold. Let go of needing to control every outcome. Let go of trying to define your life with a single purpose. Let go of comparing your path to another's. The monk picks up the stone he'd been holding and gently skips it across the lake. Ripples spread slowly outward. You see, when your inner world is calm, even the smallest truth will echo, but when it is loud, even the clearest truth is drowned. You don't need to become something more to find peace. You need to become less distracted, less divided, less pulled by the noise. Because deep down, you already know what matters most. You just need space to remember. Let me ask you now, what would happen if you stopped rushing for just one day? What would change if you stopped apologizing for taking your time? What would become possible if you chose peace over productivity, even once? These are not small questions. They are invitations back to yourself, and that is the greatest clarity of all, not finding the answers out there, but remembering the truth that's always been in here. The monk touches his chest gently, then looks out at the rising sun cresting above the hills. This turning point in your life, it does not demand perfection, it only asks for your attention. As we continue forward, I will walk with you into the deeper questions about identity, about belonging, about love, about time. But for now, let us be still in this moment and honor the clarity that comes not from searching, but from surrender. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not late. You are simply becoming, and I will see you in the next part of this path. By now, you've walked with me through stillness, through silence, through the unraveling of noise and the soft remembering of self. And now, here we are, deeper into your turning point than you may have imagined. We've spoken about letting go, we've sat with pain and the lessons hidden inside it. We've breathed together, slowed down, and made room for clarity to emerge. But today, I want to guide you through something that is both a challenge and a liberation: the courage to be who you truly are. It sounds simple, doesn't it? But to live authentically in this world, a world that constantly tells you who to be, how to act, what to achieve, is one of the most courageous acts you will ever take. You were not born to be a copy of anyone else, not your parents, not your teachers, not the influencers on your screen, not even the version of you that others expect or need you to be. You were born to be something the world has never seen before: a one-of-a-kind soul, with a one-of-a-kind path, But here's what often happens. We begin life so freely as children. We laugh without permission. We cry without shame. We dance in the rain. We speak our truth with unfiltered honesty. And then, slowly, the world teaches us to shrink. To please, to earn love, to stay quiet, to put on masks, to pretend. We begin to believe that our worth is tied to our usefulness, that our voice only matters when it's accepted, that our uniqueness is too much or not enough. And so, we hide. But at some point, maybe right now, maybe right here, the soul stirs and says, no more. No more dimming your light. No more abandoning your own needs to keep others comfortable. No more editing your truth to avoid rejection. Your turning point is not just about slowing down. It's about stepping forward as your truest self. Let me share a story with you. Years ago, a monk in training came to me in tears. He said, I've tried everything to fit in here. I wake early. I chant perfectly. I follow every rule. And still, I feel like I don't belong. I asked him, are you trying to become a monk, or are you trying to become accepted? He looked down in silence. I handed him a mirror, a simple round mirror, and said, the world may not always approve of who you are, but the mirror will never lie. Ask it who you've been pretending to be. That evening, he shaved his head not because it was required, but because, for the first time, he chose it. He returned not with pride, but with peace, because authenticity, my dear friend, is not about standing out. It's about no longer hiding. And when you stop hiding, you begin to heal. So I ask you now, gently, honestly, who have you been pretending to be in order to be loved? What parts of yourself have you silenced just to fit in? Where have you been shrinking when your soul was begging to expand? These are not easy questions, but they are sacred ones. You see, the path to peace is not paved with perfection. It is walked barefoot through the messiness of truth, humility, and self-acceptance. You will be misunderstood. You will lose people along the way, but you will gain something far more precious, yourself. The real you, the one who knows how to rest when tired, the one who speaks up when silence is no longer safe, the one who can sit in solitude and still feel whole, the one who laughs from the belly and cries from the heart and lives without apology. That version of you, the whole version, is who this world needs most, not a performer, not a pretender, not a polished mask, but a presence. And the more you live from that place, the lighter life becomes. Not because the world changes, but because you stop carrying the weight of who you're not. The monk looks up through the trees, light pouring in like grace. His expression softens as a breeze moves through the forest. Let this be your prayer today. May I have the courage to return to who I really am. And let your choices, small and steady, reflect that. Return where what feels right. Speak what is true. Let go of what's no longer aligned. And above all, give yourself permission to be free, free from the past, free from expectation, free from roles that you never asked for. You were never meant to live inside a cage. Not even a beautiful one. So breathe deep, take up space, come back home. Because the greatest act of rebellion in this world is to love yourself completely as you are and live from that love. The monk stands and bows deeply, his hands pressed together in prayer. I see the real you. And the path ahead is brighter than you know. And now we arrive, not at the end, but at a sacred pause, a breath at the edge of all that you've remembered. You have walked with me through silence, through stories, through stillness and reflection. You have faced the mirror, sat with your pain, questioned the noise, and let yourself soften into the truth. You have reached a turning point, and more importantly, you chose to stay, you chose to listen, to feel, to wake up. Not every soul does. Many keep running, keep numbing, keep pretending, but you didn't, and for that, I bow to you. The monk bows deeply. A long pause follows, then he lifts his head slowly. You may be wondering now, what next? The truth is, the next chapter is no longer in my hands, it is in yours. Because this turning point was never about me guiding you, it was always about you remembering your own inner teacher, the one who speaks in stillness, the one who whispers through intuition, the one who already knows the way home. Let me remind you of what you now carry. You've learned that peace is not a destination. It's a practice. That stillness is not laziness, it is clarity. In its purest form, that letting go is not weakness, it is a courageous return to freedom. That you do not have to be perfect, only present. And that healing does not always look like joy. Sometimes, it looks like slowing down long enough to finally feel what you've been avoiding. You are not lost, you were simply ready to find a deeper path. And now you have the tools, not because I gave them to you, but because you uncovered them within yourself. Breath, reflection, courage, stillness, choice. Let me offer one final story. There was once a seeker who climbed many mountains, searching for truth. One day, exhausted and weary, he met an old monk who simply offered him tea. They sat for hours, not speaking. At last, the seeker asked, "Why haven't you told me anything? Aren't you supposed to give me the answer?" The monk smiled gently. and said, "If you've climbed this far, you're already holding the answer. I'm just here to remind you to trust it. That is what I have hoped to do for you. Not to give you my truth, but to hold a space where you could reclaim your own. Because this isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before the world told you who to be. That child who danced without shame. That heart that loved without walls. That mind that dreamed freely. That soul that breathed in rhythm with the sky. They are still here, beneath the weariness. Beneath the masks, beneath the story of struggle. You do not need to find yourself. You only need to stop abandoning yourself. So now, what will you do? Will you take a walk without your phone just to hear your own thoughts? Will you speak gently to yourself when doubt rises? Will you protect your peace, not as luxury, but as a necessity? Will you love fully, freely, even if it scares you? You get to decide. Because you, my dear friend, are the author now, and while this series ends here, your journey continues in every breath, in every step. In every moment you choose presence over performance, depth over distraction, truth over comfort. You've reached a turning point, and now you walk forward, not alone, but awake. The monk places a hand over his heart and closes his eyes. The golden light washes over his face. For a long moment, he simply breathes. Then, softly, he opens his eyes and smiles. I thank you, not just for listening, but for remembering. The way is not found outside you, it begins within. Every turning point is the start of a return. May you walk gently, love fiercely, and live truthfully. If this journey has touched your heart, I invite you to subscribe for more guided reflections and monk wisdom. Comment below with your biggest insight or turning point. Turn on the bell so you never miss a moment of peace. Share this with someone who is ready to come home to themselves. This may be the final page of the story, but your soul's journey is only just beginning.